If slow burn, emotional stories about broken people quietly becoming a family touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next cinematic story on this channel. The plow truck felt like the only thing left moving in the world. Snow swallowed the road, the pines, the skitty. Headlights pushed a narrow tunnel through the white. Beyond that, there was nothing. No color, no depth. Just a wall of drifting flakes and the low growl of the engine. Colehart leaned forward, squinting at the faint curve of Highway 89 as it climbed into the pass. The wipers thumped, smearing ice. His hands were steady on the wheel, gloved knuckles pale in the dash light. Last run, he muttered to himself. Then bed. Bed meant the narrow bunk behind the seats and the scratchy, government-issued blanket. But it was warm and it was his, and out here that counted. The radio hissed in the background, the dispatcher's voice fading in and out between bursts of static. Ridgeback Pass, whiteout conditions, all non-essential traffic closed. Hart, you still up there? Cole grabbed the mic. Yeah, he said, just past mile 42. I'll drop the gate at the turnout and head back. Copy that, the dispatcher replied. You're the last one on the hill. Watch yourself. He hung the mic back on its hook. Last one on the hill? Same as always. Cole didn't mind the solitude. The mountain roads didn't ask about North Hollow or about the ranch that used to sit in the bend of the creek. They didn't ask why he'd left his little sister to fight alone while he went looking for work that kept him moving. The snow thickened. His world shrank to the wash of headlights and the line of the plow blade pushing drifts aside. He knew this road, every curve, every guardrail. He knew where black ice liked to hide, where deer liked to jump, where the wind piled snow into sudden ridges. He also knew the turnout ahead, a wide shoulder carved into the mountainside, a place to park the plow, chain the gate across the road, and let the storm claim the pass for the night. He eased the truck into the turnout and dropped it into neutral. The engine rumble softened. Outside, the storm roared like ocean surf. Cole shut off the blade and let the truck idle. For a moment, he just sat, feeling the hum under his boots, the way you feel your own heartbeat when you hold still long enough. He reached up and flicked off the headlights. Darkness rushed in. The cab glowed in soft amber from the dash. Snow smeared the windshield like frost on a windowpane. He exhaled. Long. The way you do when you finally let go of something you didn't realize you were gripping. The wind rattled the truck, and then, faint and wrong in the noise, there was a sound he didn't expect. A dull, frantic thudding. He frowned. The noise came again, harder. Knuckles on metal. A muffled cry. Cole jolted, turned, and saw the shadow on the passenger side window. Small, hunched. One arm cradled something, the other raised to pound on the glass. What the? He reached for the lock and opened the door against the push of the wind. Cold slammed into the cab. Snow swirled in, stinging his face. A woman stood on the running board, face streaked with melted flakes, hair plastered to her cheeks. She clutched a bundle of pink blankets against her chest. Her lips were blue. Please, she gasped. Please, my car's stuck. My baby. The bundle moved. A small sound came from inside. A weak, hitching crop on. Cole didn't think. Get in, he said. He grabbed her elbow and hauled her into the cab, then leaned out and yanked the door shut with both hands. The latch clanged. The world became small and warm again. She collapsed into the seat, breathing hard, still clutching the blankets. Snow spattered the floor at her boots. Cole cranked the heater up, then reached for the blankets. Let me see her, he said. The woman hesitated. Her eyes were wide, the green of them bright with fear. Then she loosened her grip and peeled the blanket back. A tiny face appeared, flushed, damp with sweat. Wisps of dark hair stuck to a too-hot forehead. The baby's eyes were half closed, lashes clumped. Her small chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. Cole pressed the back of his hand to her skin. She burned. How long has she been like this, he asked. An hour, maybe more. The woman's voice shook. We slid off the road. I couldn't get a signal. I tried to walk, but the wind, I saw your lights. Please, can you take us somewhere? Anywhere. We will, he said. First we warm her up. She's burning on the inside, freezing on the outside. That's a bad mix. He shrugged out of his heavy coat and draped it over them both, tucking it around her shoulders and the baby's body. The woman shivered under the weight. Thank you, she whispered. He grabbed a spare wool hat from the dash and pulled it down over the baby's head, then adjusted the vents so the hot air blew toward them. What's her name, he asked. Because if he said the baby's name out loud, she might feel more real and less like something the storm could snatch. Mia, the woman said. She's 9 months. Mia, he repeated. I'm Cole. She nodded once, absently, eyes fixed on Mia's face. Cole turned the heater up again, then glanced past her toward the blurred shape of the road. You said your car's stuck, he asked. She swallowed. It's in a ditch, a little way back, she said. I didn't see the edge. It's gone. I couldn't get the door open all the way. I just grabbed her and ran. He pictured the steep drop-offs along the pass, the places where a car could slide and keep sliding. You got lucky, he said. Doesn't feel like it, she murmured. They sat in uneasy silence. The baby's breathing eased a little. Color slowly crept back into the woman's face. Cole flicked the radio volume up a notch, listening for updates. Static. Storm warnings? Nothing about missing vehicles yet. He glanced at her boots. City boots. Expensive leather. Not made for this kind of snow. Her coat, though soaked, had the subtle lines and stitching of something you didn't buy at the local feed store. Her hands, when they emerged from the blanket to touch Mia's face, were fine-boned and soft. Nails manicured down but still carrying the neatness of habit. She did not look like someone who belonged on the side of a Wyoming highway in a storm. Where were you headed, he asked. South, she said. That narrows it down, he replied. A town called North Hollow, she added. After a beat, the name hit him in the chest. North Hollow. His jaw tightened. Why, he asked carefully. The woman held Mia closer. Because there are people there I need to talk to, she said. People my family hurt. And because I don't have anywhere else to go. Her choice of words snagged on something in him. My family, she'd said, not we. He let it go. For now, the heater hummed. The truck rocked slightly in a gust of wind. We can't stay up here all night, Cole said. There's a ranger station a few miles down. Old, but it has a stove and a radio. I'll get us there. He put the truck in gear, eased it back onto the road, and started down the mountain at a crawl. The plow pushed snow aside in slow, heavy waves. The woman, Tessa, according to the name she would give him later, kept Mia pressed against her chest. Her eyes never left the child. Cole kept his eyes on the road. For a while, no one spoke. The ranger station clung to the side of the mountain like a barnacle. It was just a squat building of weathered wood, half buried in snow, with a faded Forest Service sign leaning at an angle by the door. A narrow track branched off the highway and led to a small parking area barely visible under drifts. Cole pulled in, engine laboring. He parked close enough that he could yank open the station door without fighting more snow than necessary. Stay here, he said. I'll check it's safe, then come back for you. The woman nodded, jaw clenched. He stepped out into the storm and slogged through thigh-deep snow to the door. The lock stuck, then gave way with a groan. Cold, stale air rushed out. Inside, the station was dark and empty. A couple of folding cots leaned against the wall. A wood stove sat in the corner. A pile of chopped logs beside it. A small radio console, old but functional, perched on a table. Good enough, Cole muttered. He went back, wrapped his coat tighter around the woman and baby, and guided them inside. By the time he got a fire going in the stove, his fingers were numb. The first crackle of flame was almost as satisfying as the first sip of coffee on a cold morning. He fed the fire slowly until the room stopped feeling like a freezer and more like a walk-in fridge. The woman sat on one of the cots, back against the wall, Mia cradled in her arms. The baby's cheeks had lost some of their alarming flush. Her eyes were still glassy, but she breathed more easily. Cole set a pot of snow on the stove to melt and moved to the radio. He flipped switches until the old machine crackled to life. Severe winter storm warning remains in effect. He tuned past weather reports and traffic updates, listening for anything about a missing car, a lost woman, an Amber Alert, static, a country song, an ad for a truck dealership. He turned the volume down, letting it murmur in the background. "You're very prepared," the woman said quietly. "It's my job," he replied. "I clear this pass. I know where the safe spots are." She watched him for a moment. "Thank you for stopping," she said, "for opening the door. Would have been a hell of a thing to live with if I hadn't," he said. A tiny smile ghosted across her face. "I suppose so," she said. Silence settled again. Cole pulled off his gloves and rubbed his hands together in front of the stove. The heat bit at his skin, painful and pleasant. He glanced back at the radio. That was when the voice cut in. Different tone, different cadence. "We interrupt this broadcast for a special bulletin from the state police." His spine stiffened. He turned the volume up. "Be on the lookout for a late model black SUV. License plate beginning with CHL. Last seen heading north out of Cheyenne. The vehicle is believed to be driven by Tessa Caldwell, age 30, approximately 5'6", brown hair, green eyes. Caldwell is suspected of abducting her 9-month-old daughter, Mia Caldwell, in violation of a court order, and of taking confidential corporate documents from Caldwell Holdings. She may be armed and is considered emotionally unstable." Cole's eyes snapped to the woman on the cot. She had gone very still. On a small, dusty TV, mounted high in the corner, a grainy photo appeared as the radio feed synced with a news break. A studio anchor's face, then a picture of a smiling woman in a cocktail dress at some gala. Brown hair, green eyes, the same barnazes beneath the makeup and the cold and the fear. Then another photo, the baby, Mia, cheeks round, a bow clipped to her hair. Cole felt something inside him go cold. Caldwell. The name rolled through him like distant thunder. He knew the name this way you know your own. Caldwell Holdings, the company whose logo had appeared on the letters that told his father the ranch was foreclosed, on the documents that announced the auction, on the liens that piled up when the bank said taxes were overdue. The name etched on the side of the bulldozers that pushed down his childhood home. The name muttered like a curse in every kitchen in North Hollow for years. The voice on the radio kept talking. Words like custody dispute, family concern, corporate theft. Cole turned the volume down until it was a muffled hum. The woman Tessa Caldwell, if the radio was right, sat with her eyes closed, jaw tight. "You heard," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," he replied. She opened her eyes and met his gaze. They were the same green as the photo on the screen, but now they were stripped of mascara and careful lighting. Raw, bloodshot, human. "I didn't abduct my daughter," she said. "I took my child away from a man who thinks she's a bargaining chip. But you don't have a reason to believe me." Cole studied her. He saw the tremor in her hands. He saw the way she held Mia like something she couldn't bear to lose. He saw the haunted look you don't fake. He also saw a last name that had been written on every bad thing that had happened to his family. The room felt smaller. "You're Caldwell," he said, the word tasting like metal. She nodded once. "Tessa Caldwell," she said, "for now." He looked at the stove, at the fire, at the door, at the radio. He could pick up the microphone, call the troopers, tell them he had found her. They would send someone up. They'd commend him for doing his duty. Maybe the company would send a check, a thank you, a letter with nice words about partnership and community. He could imagine his father's voice, angry and tired, asking how it had come to this. The Hart Ranch gone, the cows sold, the sign taken down. He could also imagine that same voice saying, "Don't you dare be the kind of man who leaves a kid out in the cold." The fire popped. Mia stirred in her mother's arms, let out a soft cry, then settled. Cole exhaled slowly. "I heard what the radio said." He said, "That doesn't mean it's the truth." Tessa's shoulders sagged, just a little. You're not calling them, she asked. Not tonight, he said. The pass is closed. Troopers can't get up here, even if they try. We get you and the baby through the storm first. Then we figure out the rest. Why, she whispered. Because I've buried enough people, he thought. Because the company with your name on it already took everything from me. I'm not letting it take my conscience, too. Out loud, he said, because she didn't choose her last name. Neither did I. Tessa looked down at Mia. I don't expect you to trust me, she said, but thank you. Trust, that was a word he hadn't applied to anyone with money and a big city coat in a long time. He moved away from the radio and sat on the other cot, facing them. Get some sleep, he said. I'll keep the fire going. She nodded, eyes already drooping with exhausted relief. As she drifted off, Cole stared at the embers. He could feel old anger pressing against the inside of his ribs like something wanting out. Snow and silence pressed against the walls. In the morning, he told himself, there would be choices to make. Tonight, there was only the storm, a baby's soft breathing, and the fragile heat they shared. By morning, the snow had eased. The world outside the station was muffled in white, but the worst of the wind had passed. The plow truck was just a hump under a fresh blanket. Cole stoked the stove, made coffee thick enough to stand a spoon in, and melted snow for water. He found an old first aid kit and wrapped Tessa's scraped knuckles while she watched Mia sleep. She's cooler, he said, feeling the baby's forehead. That's good. Tessa nodded, relief carving lines in her face. Thank you, she said. Again. They sat at the small table, steam rising from their mugs. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Cole asked. Tessa blew on her coffee. No, she admitted. Not really. I thought if I could just reach North Hollow, talk to people there, maybe they'd know what to do. Maybe they'd help get the story out. Cole's jaw worked. You picked North Hollow at random, he asked. Her eyes flicked up to his. No, she said. I picked it because I saw a folder on my father's desk. North Hollow Acquisition. I heard him laugh when someone said the last families were still holding out. He called them stubborn idiots. He signed something that made their taxes jump overnight. Cole's hand tightened around his mug. My family was one of those stubborn idiots, he said. Tessa's eyes widened. Your family lost our ranch, he said. Lost everything. Dad died 2 years after the sale went through. Mom before that. My sister's the only one still in town. Fighting. I've been up here, pushing snow for the state and pretending mountains are easier than people. A flush crept up Tessa's throat. I'm sorry, she said. The words small. You didn't sign the papers, he said. No, she agreed. But I benefited from them. I went to college with that money. I bought shoes made from land like yours. I didn't ask where it came from. That's on me. He studied her. Shame sat heavy on her shoulders. But it wasn't the brittle, performative kind. It looked lived in. The satellite phone on the wall beeped. He stood and answered it. Hart, he said. Cole, the voice was his sister's. Tired, sharp, familiar. Please tell me you're not dead in a ditch. He blinked. Morning to you too. Jen, he said. Storm's bad, Jenny Hart said. I saw they closed the pass. Just making sure my idiot brother didn't try to prove he's invincible again. I'm fine, he said. Stuck up at the old ranger station for a bit. What's going on down there? She exhaled, a sound that carried more than just the day's weight. What's going on is Caldwell's goons were back yesterday, she said, surveying again, marking more houses, mine included. They're pushing hard. They want us all gone by spring. Cole closed his eyes. I thought you had a stay order, he said. Temporary, she replied. They're fighting it. Money talks. We're just the static. He swallowed. You okay, he asked. I'm pissed, she said. That's my default now. But yeah, the town's holding a meeting tonight. We're talking about getting this in front of a reporter. Someone who isn't bought. He glanced at Tessa, at the way she held her coffee but didn't drink. I might know someone who has what you need, he said slowly. Oh yeah, Jenny asked. Found a friendly billionaire up there in the snow. Something like that, he said. I'll explain when I can get down. Stay safe, Jen. Try and do the same, she said. And Cole, yeah, don't disappear again, she said. The line clicked. He hung up the phone. You didn't tell her I was here, Tessa observed. Not yet. Déjà what, he said. Do you trust her, she asked. With my life, he replied. Tessa nodded. I hope one day she can trust me, she said. He didn't answer. Outside, a plow from the other side of the pass rumbled faintly, pushing snow. He checked the window. Road looks passable enough to creep, he said. We'll head down to town. There's another station halfway where we can get a better signal. He hesitated. I know a guy, he added, a reporter. Used to work for a big paper, then got kicked out for digging too deep. He's been sniffing around North Hollow for months. If anyone can blow this open, it's him. Tessa's fingers tightened around the mug. Ray Hale, she asked quietly. Cole blinked. You know him. She nodded. I sent him an anonymous email about a year ago, she said. He replied, said he'd been trying to get someone from inside Caldwell to talk. I panicked and went quiet. I wasn't ready then. You might not get a second chance, Cole said. I know, she replied. He believed her. The second ranger outpost was smaller than the first. Just a one-room shack with a metal roof and a radio that looked like it belonged in a museum. The snow let up just long enough for Cole to guide the plow down the narrow side road to it. Trees bent under the weight of white. Every sound felt muffled. Inside, the shack smelled of dust and old coffee. Tessa stood near the stove, Mia on her hip, rocking gently. The baby's fever had settled into a low simmer. Her cheeks were less flushed, her eyes curious again. Cole fiddled with the radio until he picked up a scratchy, familiar voice. If you're calling to complain about my last story, get in line. If you're calling with a tip, congratulations. You're my favorite person. Leave a number. He smiled slightly. Ray Hale did not sound like a man whose bridge-burning days were behind him. Cole grabbed the satellite phone and punched in the number from the radio's scrawled note. Yeah, Ray's voice came sharper, unfiltered, when he answered. It's Cole Hart, Cole said, from North Hollow. A beat? You're that snowplow guy your sister keeps talking about, Ray said. The one who ran off and plays bumper cars with avalanches. That's me, Cole said. Listen, I've got someone you need to meet, and she's got something you've been chasing for a long time. He looked at Tessa. She squared her shoulders. When can you get to the old station above town, Cole asked. Roads are a mess, Ray said, but for a good story, I've driven through worse. Give me a few hours. He hung up. Cole turned to Tessa. You sure, he asked. Once you talk to him, there's no putting this back in the box. She kissed the top of Mia's head. No box I've ever been in has been safe, she said. Might as well pick one with more air. Afternoon light turned everything in the cabin the color of watered milk. Ray arrived with snow in his beard and a camera slung over his shoulder. He was in his 40s, with lines at the corners of his eyes that looked carved there by squinting at too many bad truths. He glanced at Cole, then at Tessa, then at Mia. Please tell me you're not who I think you are, he said to Tessa. I'm exactly who you think, she replied. Tessa Caldwell. For the moment, damn, he said softly. I was hoping the universe wasn't that poetic. He set up the camera on a crate, checked the battery, and looked at her. You understand what happens if you go on record, he asked. They'll try to shut me down, she said. Discredit me. Take my child. He nodded. And you still want to talk? She gazed at Mia, who by then was chewing on a rubber ring and watching Ray with solemn eyes. They already took everything else, Tessa said. If I let them take my voice too, then I really am what they say I am. Weak, controlled. I'm done with that. Ray's gaze softened for a second. Okay, he said. We'll do this smart. We record everything. We back up in 3 places. We don't release until you're surrounded by people. Not alone. They can come for you, but they can't untell the story. He hit record. The red light blinked. Ray asked questions. Tessa answered. She talked about growing up in a glass tower with a view of the city, watching deals close from the window seat while her father explained that the world was divided into winners and losers. Winners held the pen. Losers signed where they were told. She described overhearing conversations about North Hollow, the way executives laughed at the idea of some town with a stupid name, thinking it could stand up to them. She talked about the day she found the original land deeds in a safe her father thought she didn't know how to open. The forged signatures. The emails instructing staff to apply maximum pressure and make it too expensive for them to stay. She talked about getting pregnant, about how, for a brief moment, she thought maybe having a grandchild would soften her father. It didn't, she said. He saw her as another asset, another way to leverage me. Her voice thickened. When I told him I was working with Ray, she said, he had his lawyers file for emergency custody. Said I was unstable. Said I was being manipulated. He used every bruise I ever got, every mistake I ever made, as proof I was unfit. Cole listened from across the room, fists clenched. He thought of his father at the kitchen table, letters spread out in front of him, face gray. He thought of his mother scrubbing floors that weren't theirs anymore. He thought of his own decision to leave, of the leaving that had felt like survival and betrayal at the same time. Tessa kept talking. By the time Ray turned the camera off, the light outside had dimmed. "You just lit a fuse," Ray said quietly. "Good," Tessa replied. "I'm tired of sitting on explosives." Cole believed her. The road into North Hollow twisted between hills and stands of pine. By the time Cole drove the plow down into town with Tessa and Mia in the cab, the worst of the snow had melted into heavy slush. The sky was a low ceiling of cloud. North Hollow sat in a shallow valley. A few dozen houses, a main street with a diner, a hardware store, a shuttered movie theater, a church, a community hall. The sign that once read, "Welcome to North Hollow, where the mountains hold you," was scarred where someone had tried to pry it up. Some lots were empty. The ghosts of houses lingered in the disturbed earth and the way the snow lay differently where foundations had once been. Cole's chest tightened at the sight. Jenny's truck was parked outside the small, leaning house that had been their parents'. Protest signs leaned against the porch. "Our home, not your project. People over profit. Caldwell, go home." Cole parked the plow and turned to Tessa. "You can still change your mind," he said. She shook her head. "No," she said. "If I'm going to ask these people to trust me, I don't do it from a distance." He admired that. It scared him. Jenny opened the door as they walked up the path. She was smaller than Cole remembered. Or maybe the years had made his memories larger. Her hair was tied back in a messy knot. Her hands red from dishwater, or cold. Lines of fatigue bracketed her mouth, but her eyes were sharp. She looked at Cole first. "Well, look what the snow dragged in," she said. He managed a smile. "Hey, Jen," he said. She hugged him hard before he could say anything else, then stepped back and punched his shoulder. "Call more often," she said. He nodded, throat thick. Her gaze moved to Tessa and Mia. The warmth drained from her face. "Is that," she began, "Tessa Caldwell?" Tessa said, "Yes." Jenny's hands curled around the doorframe. "You brought a Caldwell into my house?" she asked Cole, voice low. "She brought herself," he said. "I just didn't shut the door." Tessa shifted Mia on her hip. "I know what my name means here," she said. "I'm not asking you to forgive it. I'm asking you to look at what I brought with me." She held up a flash drive on a chain around her neck. "Every document I could copy," she said. "Deals, emails, orders, enough to show they cheated you, enough to make someone listen." Jenny stared at the small piece of metal. "Why," she asked, "why would you screw over your own father for a town you've never seen?" Tessa's jaw worked. "Because my daughter has his last name," she said. "And I will not let that name mean what he turned it into. Because I have more in common with you than with the people in his boardroom, and I'm done pretending otherwise." Mia squirmed and reached clumsily toward Jenny, chubby hands out. Jenny's face cracked, just a little. She looked at Cole. "You vouch for her?" she asked. He thought of the storm, of Tessa's fear, of the way she had held Mia like a shield and a treasure, of the files she had carried across state lines instead of jewelry. "I vouch for the fact that she put herself and her kid in more danger to get this here than most of us ever will," he said. "And I vouch that without her, we don't have this shot." Jenny exhaled. "Fine," she said. "Come in. But if any Caldwell lawyer shows up on my porch, I reserve the right to lose my mind." "Deal," Tessa said. Inside, the house was small but warm. A pot simmered on the stove. Protest posters covered one wall. A corner of the living room was piled with donated blankets and canned food for neighbors who had already been pushed off their land. The town meeting that evening packed the community hall, farmers in worn jackets, teenagers leaning against the walls, and old women with lines that matched the cracks in the ceiling. A few kids clambered on folding chairs, whispering. Ray set up his camera at the back. His story was already half cut, waiting for the missing piece, Tessa's face in the light. When she stepped up onto the low stage and took the microphone, the room rustled. She looked smaller than she had on magazine covers. More human, more breakable. "My name is Tessa Caldwell," she said, voice echoing off the walls. "You know my last name. You've seen it on letters that took your homes, on signs in front of bulldozers, on the deeds that erased your families from these hills." She paused. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "I came here because I can't change what my last name did to you," she continued, "but I can refuse to let it keep doing it. I worked inside my father's company. I saw the contracts. I saw the way they targeted towns like this, and I stole proof for you, for anyone who still thinks they can't fight this." She lifted the flash drive. "This is yours," she said, "if you want it." An old man near the front stood. "Why should we trust you?" he asked. "You lived in that big glass tower while they took everything from us. You ate off the money they squeezed out of this soil." Tessa nodded. "You're right," she said. "When I did. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to make that less true. I don't ask for your trust. I ask for your scrutiny. Look at what I brought. Tear it apart. If it helps you, use it. If it doesn't, throw it away. But don't let him keep the only narrative." A woman with gray braids raised her hand. "And the baby?" she asked. "They say you stole her." Tessa's grip tightened on the microphone. "She's my daughter," she said. "He thinks he owns here because he has money and the lawyers, but she is not his leverage. She is not his heir. She is a person, and I will burn every bridge between me and that man before I let him turn her into another asset." Silence flooded the hall. Then someone clapped, then another. It grew slowly to something like approval, or at least into a sound that wasn't rejection. Jenny stepped onto the stage and took the flash drive. "We've got a lawyer coming in tomorrow," she said. "Ray's going to put this in front of anyone who'll print it. We're not dead yet." For the first time in a long time, Cole saw something like hope in the eyes around him. The lawyer's name was Diaz. She was short, sharp, and spoke like she had somewhere more important to be but had chosen to be here instead. In Jenny's kitchen the next morning, Diaz laid out the options with ruthless clarity. "You go public. On the record," she said to Tessa. "You testify in a state hearing. You give interviews. You put your name and face next to those documents. That makes it harder for your father to bury this." "And the downside?" Tessa asked. Diaz raised an eyebrow. "The downside is he throws everything he has at you," she said. "He'll file for full custody of Mia in every jurisdiction. He'll dig up your old medical records, your college essays, your search history. He'll buy shrinks to say you're unfit. He'll make your life hell." Tessa swallowed. "And if I stay anonymous," she asked. "Then you're harder to hit," Diaz said. "But the story is also easier to dismiss. Disgruntled employee, unverified documents. Judges like names. They like faces." Mia sat on the floor, banging a wooden spoon against a pot, oblivious. Cole leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Diaz looked at him. "And you," she said, "you are not a neutral party. You're one of the first people they pushed out. If you speak, it matters." Cole shifted. "I push snow," he said. "I'm not a public speaker." Diaz snorted. "Congratulations," she said. Most people aren't. That doesn't mean they get to sit this out. The choice sat heavy in the air. Safety or impact? Silence or noise? Tessa stared at Mia. What happens to her? She asked quietly. Diaz's voice softened. What I can promise, she said, is that you won't be alone. We can get statements from people who know you. We can show the court who you are now. Not who your father says you are. But yes, there will be risk. Tessa's hands trembled. She got up, walked to the window, and watched a few kids chasing each other in the snow outside. Cole followed. You don't have to do this, he said. She laughed once, without humor. Yeah, I do, she said. That's the problem. She turned to face him. Do you remember what it felt like? She asked. When you realized they could take your home and you couldn't stop it, that they could just erase you on paper. He looked at the scarred table, at the worn floorboards. Every day, he said, I can't undo that, she said. But maybe I can make sure it's harder next time. Maybe, if Mia grows up in a world where North Hollow still exists, where she sees that her grandfather tried to take it and failed, she'll know that money isn't everything. Her voice broke. And if I hide, she said, if I let him scare me into silence, what does that teach her? That we survive by swallowing what's right? Cole's chest ached. He wanted to tell her to run, to disappear into some small town where Caldwell's lawyers couldn't find her, to pick a life with less risk. He also knew that the girl who had clawed her way through a snowstorm with a baby in her arm would never forgive herself for choosing the quiet paths. Whatever you decide, he said, I'll be there. She searched his face. Even if I lose, she asked. He thought of his father, of promises made, broken, remade. Especially if you lose, he said. The hearing room in the county courthouse smelled of old wood and new nerves. Journalists lined the back wall, cameras on sticks, microphones with logos. Ray stood among them, arms folded, watching. On one side of the room, a table held Diaz, Tessa, and a stack of binders filled with printed emails, contracts, and bank records. On the other, Victor Caldwell sat with a team of lawyers in dark suits. He was taller than he looked in magazines, with silver hair and a jaw that had been on the front of business sections for a decade. He did not look at Tessa at first. Only when her name was called did he turn his head. There was no softness in his eyes, only fury and something like disappointment calcified into contempt. You don't have to do this, he murmured as she passed. Come home. We can fix this quietly. Drop that, man's pet reporter. Drop this performance. Tessa paused. For a heartbeat, Cole saw the girl underneath the woman, the child who had probably once climbed into this man's lap, hoping for affection. Then she straightened. I am home, she said. You built your house on other people's ruins. I'm choosing to live somewhere else. She walked to the witness stand. She lifted her hand and swore to tell the truth. Diaz's questions were simple. Did you see these documents? Yes. Did your father sign them? Yes. Did he know they were based on false valuations? Yes. On the other side, Caldwell's lawyers shifted, scribbling notes. When it was their turn, they came at her with paper cuts. Isn't it true, Miss Caldwell, that you have been treated for depression? Yes, she said. Isn't it true that you have a history of impulsive behavior? Yes. Isn't it possible that your perception of events is colored by your emotional instability? She met the lawyer's gaze. It's possible my perception of my father is complicated, she said. It is not possible that the signatures on those documents appeared there by themselves. A ripple of laughter ran through the room. The judge rapped his gavel lightly. Stick to questions of fact, he said. Caldwell's face reddened. He stood suddenly. This is a witch hunt, he said. My daughter is unwell. She has been manipulated by fringe activists and second-rate journalists. Caldwell Holdings has brought jobs and infrastructure to communities across this state. We are the ones building the future. Jenny stood in the back row. And we're the ones you buried, she called. Funny how that doesn't make it into your speeches. The judge banged the gavel harder. Order, he said. This is not a rally. He turned to the state's attorney, who had been silent until then, flipping through the binders. These documents are concerning, the attorney said. Given the weight of this testimony and the corroborating evidence presented, My office will be opening a formal investigation into Caldwell Holdings acquisition practices in North Hollow and elsewhere. Victor's mouth opened, closed. The judge continued. In the meantime, he said, this court orders an immediate injunction on any further development activity in North Hollow pending the outcome of that investigation. Cole felt a breath he hadn't known he was holding leave his body. The project was not dead, but it was stopped. For now, that was enough. Outside, on the courthouse steps, microphones were thrust at Tessa. Miss Caldwell, how does it feel to testify against your own father? Someone shouted. She held Mia on her hip, the little girl's head tucked under her chin. It feels like telling the truth, Tessa said. And for the record, my name is Tessa Vance now. She glanced at Cole and Jenny in the crowd. And it feels, she added, like the beginning of something better. Spring in North Hollow didn't arrive with fanfare. It crept in. Snow retreated from the edges of fields. Patches of green appeared like bruises healing. The creek swelled, rushing over the stones where Cole had broken his arm jumping as a kid. The sign at the edge of town got a new coat of paint. The words "Where the mountains hold you" were traced with fresh white. Caldwell Holdings' logo came down from fences and construction trailers. The state investigation had expanded beyond North Hollow. Victor Caldwell spent more time in courtrooms than boardrooms. He was still rich. Men like him didn't go broke overnight. But he wasn't untouchable anymore. Tessa's legal name changed from Caldwell to Vance, the middle name of a grandmother she actually remembered fondly. The trust that had been set up for her, money meant to bind her to the family, became seed funding for a community land trust. Lawyers argued over whether she had the right to do that. In the meantime, roofs were patched. A small grocery store reopened in a building that had once sat empty. Jenny's house got a new porch. A few other places did too. Cole didn't sleep in the plow truck anymore. He still drove it when storms came, but now he parked it at the end of a gravel drive that led to a small cabin with lights in the windows. He had a set of keys that jingled in his pocket when he walked. He took a job heading the new, modest public works crew in town, fixing roads, repairing pipes, keeping the things people actually used in working order. Some nights, after he'd washed the grit off his hands, he'd walk down to the community hall where Tessa and Jenny and a few others held meetings about bylaws and budgets for the co-op. He didn't say much. He wasn't a bylaws man, but he liked listening to Tessa talk. She had traded tailored suits for jeans and flannel. She still moved with the careful posture of someone raised in rooms where every gesture was watched, but her laugh came easier now. Mia toddled through the hall with crayons, leaving smears of color on scrap paper. Sometimes she climbed into Cole's lap without asking and fell asleep there, drooling on his shirt. The first time it happened, Tessa looked panicked, as if she might snatch the child away. Cole just adjusted his arms and kept listening, Mia's small weight warm and heavy against his chest. Later, as he carried her home, he realized his heart felt both lighter and more burdened. It was a good kind of heavy. The North Hollow Spring Fair had been a tradition once. For a few years, when the worst of the fighting with Caldwell was happening, it had stopped. No one had the heart to string lights when bulldozers idled at the edge of town. This year, the fair came back. Paper lanterns hung from wires stretched between trees. Booths popped up along the main street, selling pies and handmade crafts. A small stage held a local band plucking guitars and singing songs about rivers and roads. Cole spent the day before up on ladders, stringing lights. He hammered nails, checked connections, and tried not to look down too much when Tessa teased him from below about being afraid of heights. Mia trailed them, holding a stuffed fox that had seen better days. On the day of the fair, the whole town turned out. Kids ran in circles, faces sticky with cotton candy. Old men argued about the quality of this year's seed. Teenagers flirted awkwardly under the lanterns. Cole stood near the back of the crowd, watching. Tessa approached, Mia's hand in hers. The little girl wore a dress with tiny flowers printed on it, a smudge of chocolate on her cheek. "Hi," Tessa said. "Hey," he replied. Mia held something behind her back. "What have you got there?" Kiddo Cole asked. She grinned and pulled it out, a piece of heavy paper, bent at the corners, covered in crayon. Three figures stood in front of a little house, a big one with messy dark hair, a smaller one with a yellow scribble of hair, a medium one with brown hair that fell to her shoulders. Above them, a mountain. Beneath them, a line. On the roof, in crooked letters, she had written "Heart Home." Cole's throat tightened. "That's us," Mia said proudly. "That's you and Mommy and me. Jenny says the house doesn't have your name on it yet, so I put it there." Tessa shifted, suddenly shy. She drew it all by herself. She said, "I only helped with the letters." Mia looked between them. "Can we keep him?" she asked Tessa, as if Cole wasn't standing right there. Like, for always. The world slowed. Tessa's eyes met Cole's. There was humor there, and fear, and something else that had been building in the quiet, in the shared work, in the way they had watched each other hold the same child. "Maybe," Tessa said softly, "if he wants to be kept." Cole exhaled a breath that felt like it had been lodged in him since the ranch fell. "I don't mind the idea," he said. Mia beamed. "Good," she said, then ran off toward a booth selling balloons, as if the matter were settled. Adults, he thought, had a way of making simple things hard. Later, when the fair was winding down and the lights cast soft halos over the street, Cole walked up the hill to his cabin. The air had that clean, cold edge it got once the sun slipped behind the ridge, but it wasn't winter's knife anymore. Just spring's reminder that the mountains were still there. He reached the porch and fumbled for his keys. Before he could find them, a knock sounded on the door. He froze. For a heartbeat, he was back in the plow truck, back in the storm, back hearing the desperate pound of a stranger's fist on metal. He opened the door. Tessa stood there. Mia was on her hip, head on her mother's shoulder, half asleep. Each of them held a small duffel bag. The porch light painted them in gold. "Hey," Cole said. "Hey," she replied. He took in the bags, the way Tessa's fingers gripped the strap, the flicker of nerves under her attempt at a smile. "You running again?" he asked, gently. She shook her head. "No," she said. "I'm done running. I'm moving." He blinked. "Here?" he asked. She looked past him into the cabin. It was small, bare walls, a couch, a chipped table, a pair of boots by the door. Nothing fancy. "Jenny says the co-op can help me with a place," Tessa said. "That there's a little house by the creek we could fix up. And we will. But tonight, well, I didn't want to open a door alone." She met his eyes. "That night in the storm," she said, "you opened your door to two strangers with the worst last name you could think of. You kept us alive. For a long time, I didn't think I was allowed to ask for more from anyone. But tonight, if you have room, I'd like to." He stood there, heart pounding. For years, home had been a word that hurt. It meant a place he'd lost. Walls that had come down. Fields that belonged to someone else now. The cabin behind him wasn't much. 4 walls and a roof, a working stove, a bed that had only ever held him. As he looked at Tessa and Mia, though, he realized something. Home wasn't the building. It was the people standing on the threshold. He stepped back, opening the door wider. "Come in," he said. Tessa smiled, small and bright. Mia lifted her head just enough to murmur, "Hi, Cole," before yawning. They crossed the threshold together. The light from inside spilled out onto the porch, pushing the shadows back. Behind them, North Hollow settled under the clear night sky. Lights from a dozen houses glowing like stars that had decided to stay close to the ground. Inside the cabin, Cole hung up their bags on the same hook that had once held his coat alone. He watched Tessa lay Mia down on the couch, cover her with a blanket, watched her straighten, tuck hair behind her ear, look around like someone learning a new room by heart. He felt the weight of the day, of the years, of the second chance he hadn't known he wanted. "Looks like we're going to need a bigger table," he said. She laughed. "We'll build one," she replied. "We seem to be good at starting over." He believed her. Outside, the mountains held the little town in their familiar arms. Inside, 3 people who once would have passed each other without a glance settled into the same small space, the air between them warmer than the fire. The night was quiet, No storm this time, just the soft sound of Mia's breathing, the creak of the floor, and the steady knowledge that when morning came, for the first time in a long time, they would wake up not alone. Not quite a fairy tale, something better. A beginning